This is just a short home video to show you some yoga poses for manual therapists. So with manual therapy and with anything forward facing, you get very tight across the shoulders, especially if you're stood up for long periods of time. The arches in the feet can drop and the lower back can get very sore. So within this practice, I'm just going to focus on chest opening and relaxing the back onto the floor, because when the back is grounded onto the mat, it means that the muscles can relax, so you physically can't contract the muscles. So having that natural relaxation on the floor will allow the back muscles to switch off. So I'm going to start with a chest opener. This is one of my favourite chest openers. So coming onto using a brick just below the bra strap level or just below the shoulder blades and lying back over it. Now I like to take the second level, but you can take the tall level if you wish, which is really quite high, or you can ease into it a little bit with the lowest level. I like to have something quite tough. It can seem quite tough for people at first, so you could use something that you had around the house, like a pillow or a rolled up towel, lengthways. You also then have an option to have something for your head. So I don't always have something for my head. I quite like that natural elongation of the neck, but if you've got any neck issues, you can then place for your head as well. So taking that brick just under the bra strap onto its second level, like I said. You see that there. And draping the body over onto the floor. So my ponytail there is creating a nice wedge for me. Feet then come into butterfly or simple cross-legged. And just allowing the body to relax. You might get a few clunks and clicks in the spine. When you really tighten that thoracic spine, it will just get slightly manipulated here. A little bit of articulation between the vertebrae. Shoulders relax and you soften into the pose. So just meeting yourself wherever you get to. Neck is soft, shoulders soft, hands facing up. So at the end of a long, busy day, this can be a lovely way to reset the body. Just taking a moment to counteract all that forward facing. So slowly the lower back starts to relax. Neck is working out where the head wants to rest. Let's take another minute here just to allow that stretch to happen in the front of the shoulders into the pecs. Breathing up into the chest and out through down to the bottom of the spine. And again, expansion into the lungs, into the chest and all the way out. breath can just be in and out through the mouth, or in through the nose, out through the mouth. Just allowing the body to let go a little bit more. So take your time to come out of this pose, don't rush. Bring your knees together. Rolling over slightly onto one side and removing the brick. Now, because of the neck position, just giving your neck some length with the back of your hand before rolling onto your back, and allowing the lower back, the mid back, the upper back just to settle onto the floor. So because we've been in quite a strong pose there, we don't want to rush and strain or sprain anything. We don't want to pull any muscles that have been elongated. And also allowing that weight into the floor allows the grounding down the tissues. So bringing in some slight movement into the knees. Don't raise your hips up off the floor, just allowing the lower back to remain in contact. Almost just telling the body that we're going to be doing some movement into the next posture. So making sure the neck is long onto the mat. Give a few strokes to the back of the head, up into that occipital ridge, which we're going to be working on later on. So bringing one knee up and the other knee up, and just rocking from side to side. Just getting a little bit of movement into the lower back. We're also allowing those tissues that softness that they need. Okay, so we're going to be using the belt now. Bring the belt round the bottom of that foot. Either having the leg vertically into the air with the left knee bent, foot on the floor, or you can straighten that left leg out, pointing the toes towards the ceiling, whichever's more comfortable for you. The leg will be at different angles depending on flexibility, but making sure you're grounding down through that right hip. So if it's more comfortable to have the leg further out and keeping hold of the strap, not having too much tension in the arms. What you might want to do is drop the elbows, so coming further down the strap towards the floor, dropping the elbows. So you can really relax into that. Now this stretch is great for getting to the back of the hamstrings, so if you've got any tension running from the back of the hamstrings into the lower back, that tends to work together. And any kind of forward folds that will be pulling the posterior chain, which runs all the way from the feet to the back of the head. So breathing in, breathing out, taking that foot out to the side. So keeping the left hip pinned to the mat, breathing into elongation into the adductor muscles there. You want to make sure this left leg is pinned. You can even put your hand on the top there to make sure it's not rising up, making sure the stretch is coming from the adductors. Breathing in and breathing out to center. This time bringing the belt into the left hand and putting your thumb into the crease of the left leg and right leg. You can either bring that slightly over. You're not bringing it out as far as you did with the adductor stretch. Bring it slightly over to gain an IT band stretch, which is the muscle that runs from your knee to your hip. So maintaining the length in that right hip, so bringing that flesh round. You can turn the toes of that right foot to get more of a shin stretch, which is quite a difficult place to stretch. If you've been doing any running or been on your feet a lot, you will feel it into that shin. So we're not coming too far over across the body, otherwise that will bring that right hip up. So we're pinning that right hip down, moving that right hip towards the bottom of the mat, making sure the rest of the back is in contact with the floor and the neck is soft. One more inhale here. On the exhale, bringing the foot back to centre and swapping to the other side. Okay. So we'll do the same on this side. We will do a three-way stretch, hamstring, adductor to the left, and across the body, IT band stretch, hooking your finger in with the foot slightly turned in, elongating through the side of that shin, side of the calf. Inhale, exhaling, removing the belt to the side. So we can bring the knees in, and we're going to do a slight rock up to a seated position. So we're going to come through 2-3 poses now. We're going to do puppy dog, thread the needle, and child's pose. Now all these poses are going to get into the front of the shoulders, the back of the shoulders, and then resting back. So it's all concentrating on this area. So I'll move through them fairly quickly. Obviously you can hold these poses a lot longer than I'm going to demonstrate. So puppy dog, we're bringing our hands further forward. We're coming into cat 4-point kneeling. Hips stacked over the knees, shoulders over the hands, over the wrists. Bringing our hands slightly forward to the top of the mat. Fingers are spread, grounding down into 4 corners of the hands. And we're going to move our hips back whilst keeping our throat open and up. Now, if you're not comfortable with this, you can drop the head. I think it's quite a nice way to get into the throat and into the shoulders, into the pecs, or dropping the head. Coming back to 4-point kneeling. So threading the needle, threading the hand through, face rests on the mat. Really relaxing the face, trying to get a lovely stretch through the front of the shoulder whilst maintaining square hips. And then repeat to the other side. So resting down into child's pose. You may want to take something between the heels, between the thighs and the heels. You can bolster there if it's uncomfortable, or underneath the knees if that's uncomfortable too. So two options here. One would be to take your blocks and having them 3 inches apart, placing your elbows onto the blocks and dropping your head through to centre, hands to prayer. So really getting a nice stretch into the front of the shoulder and the armpit, an area which we don't really look at opening too much. Hips are back, just dropping down to whatever feels comfortable for you. Alternatively, you can come to the wall and do that. So you can bring your hands onto the wall, similar distance to what you would have had if you were spreading them onto the mat, to the edges of the mat. So you can use that as a base and dropping your body through. So just making sure you're not looking forward, you're dropping your head but keeping the neck in a comfortable position. There's quite a strong stretch into the shoulders, but really quite a nice one if you've been doing a lot of closed off work into the front of the pec. Pec minor can get very tight and short into if you're doing any computer work, any manual therapy. So our next poses are going to be at the wall. So we're going to use legs up the wall, which is a fantastic pose to not only lengthen the hamstrings but to soften the back and to be able to rest onto something. It's a very good relaxation pose because the weight of your body can be taken by the wall. Now, in order to get into this pose, you have to shift your right hip right next to the wall and then bringing your body round. Now that should allow you then to have full contact with the backs of your legs from the base of your spine up to the feet, and then relaxing the body back down, taking the weight into the floor and feeling supported by the backs of your legs. So you can stay here for however long is comfortable. You can either take legs straight up the wall, you can move into some more adductor stretches with the splits. Always helping yourself out of a pose, so bringing your hands to the side of the knees, drawing the legs in. There's something about dropping into the coccyx here and dropping into the base of the spine, which feels really nourishing. It's also a very good reversal of blood flow. So if you have got any swelling in the body, especially in the lower limbs, if you're standing a lot, you tend to get swelling more in the ankles and the feet, because that's the lowest point of gravity. So this is a lovely pose to hold 5-10 minutes, just to relax at the end of the day. Oh, it's very good for before bedtime. So you can come into straight legs, split legs, butterfly even. There's a lovely pose on here. So you're bringing the soles of your feet together, splitting the knees, relaxing your hands, your knees into your hands, all with the safety and comfort of your back being in contact with the mat. So still using the wall, we can come into a supine twist. So just shifting and bringing the knees to the floor, can have something under the knees if you wish, if that feels slightly uncomfortable. Knees will come slightly out of alignment, which can actually feel quite nice for the lower back. And swapping to the other side, so just dropping the knees over. Like I say, you might need something between your knees which will stabilise your pelvis, bringing your pelvis more into alignment, or you might need bolstering between the floor and the knees, bringing your hips slightly up. Okay. So no sudden movements here. The back is really quite mobile. The lower back is really quite mobile, especially in the pelvis. What we don't want is to move out of this pose too quickly. So it can be quite tricky because people feel like they need to push away from the wall, but that just is engaging all the muscles that you have relaxed. So just bringing your knees over to the side, rolling over, and getting anything out of the way that doesn't need to be there. So one of the last things that I want to show you is work that I like to do into the occiput. Now the occipital ridge is where the muscles meet the skull into the back of the head. I'm quite obsessed with these muscles because if the chin is even slightly forward in a seated position, all this attachment here just takes all the weight of your head, and you don't realise how much tightness you carry there. So before your final resting pose, a great thing to do is to bring the block onto its second level, and with the edge closest to you, to the occipital ridge, is to have that in a straight line into the back of the neck. Turning your head to the right, you'll be able to feel where the ridge sits on comfortably onto the brick, and we're just going to stay there. Now you'll feel that melting slightly into the brick. If you don't feel too much, you can angle it slightly, but just be aware that if you angle it and you're sort of ramming the brick into the back of your neck, you can get quite sore there the next day. It can feel quite bruised when you've done a lot of work into there. So yes, it can feel quite satisfying at the time, but just be aware that it might not be 24 to 48 hours afterwards. So it's quite nice to stay there. You can come halfway back to centre and stay in that position. And coming back to centre and using that on the opposite side. So you'll probably find that one side is tighter than the other. My right is certainly tighter. I might feel like I need to find the sweet spots here with a bit of an angle of the brick. But it's a fantastic way to get any neck releases. So my go-to positions really for massage therapists or for any manual therapists are opening in the chest, elongation of the muscles that contract into these positions because we're working with people all day, but also this occipital ridge because we're can be naturally inquisitive, and that kind of positioning can cause a lot of strain into the back of the neck. So that release with the brick can be a brilliant way not only for ourselves to release those muscles, but also to be able to advise somebody else. So if clients ask me what stretches they should do, my two go-to stretches really are any kind of chest opening, but lying on the floor doing so, rather than doing any kind of wall stretches where you're standing up, and also working into the occipital ridge to try and release any tension yourself, which is something people always want to do, is have something that they can use themselves at home. So the final pose here would be resting in Shavasana. So take as long as you wish. In a more relaxed practice like this, you might take anything from 10 to 15 minutes in Shavasana. So Shavasana, you would just be lay on the floor, covering yourself with anything warming, putting clothes on, socks on, arms away from the body, hands facing up, feet towards the edges of the mat. I'm really letting go of any tension and having a lovely relax. So thank you for listening. I hope that helps. If I can help just one person or one therapist, fellow therapist, I'll be very happy.